party went into the early morning hours, even though most of the racers had retired back to the hotel.
Teams offload their cars and do the final checks before preparing to leave on the first stage of the rally. As the cars are brought to the front of the hotel, a small crowd begins to gather. How's the first stage gone so far?
Pretty wild. Driving up the hill over to the Bullfight Stadium. I gotta say the T100 drivers are pretty courteous. We were coming up in the fast lane and for the most part they just move right over for us. We're gonna have to watch our speed though.
On transit sections like these, drivers are required to follow the rules of the road and are driving among the general public. At this point, we separate from the race cars. The chase vehicles are taking the new toll road, while the race cars are taking the original Transpeninsular highway route along the coast.
Chrissy versus Studebaker caught on fire. They put out the fire and we're sending the trailer to get him. We'll see if we can get him fixed. I don't know what the damage was or what caused it.
Oh, us. What the Where's the fire extinguisher? Here's the fire extinguisher. Something just, I don't know what the How do you need gloves? Get your gloves! Get your gloves! It's gonna be hot! Here, babe! Gloves! Is it hot? Because here's gloves.
I don't know what the
Yeah, what the
was the tranny, the gear vendor or something.
Franny. Here, baby.
Okay, there's nothing on fire here.
Okay.
Oh, gotta get the fire extinguisher.
Here, hon.
Here, that's
Someone
all. Hold this, please. Hold this, please.
Watch out and watch out.
Hold the pin.
Watch out, Bravo.
We got another fire extinguisher?
Yeah. Let's. Okay, that one's going. There we go.
No.
Honey, let's
Hold
get
this, hold this.
Let's get the roof off. Can we pull it off? Thank you.
You're good.
The other teams and chase vehicles gather at a rendezvous point and wait for Chris and the rest of the drivers to catch up. We don't know exactly how bad the damage is to his car, but we're hoping he'll be able to continue with us on the rest of the race. Gustavo Bogo, the driver of the Porsche 914, who is directly behind Chris, shows up ahead of him and tells us what happened.
Chris put a hole in the block like this big. Rod, rod end, everything. Piston. He was in front of us about. He took off on me in one of the straights. He just took off, and then I got right behind him and started, kind of pulling into him, reeling in, and then I see, little strips of oil. I saw something and it wasn't bugs, so I kind of let off, and all of a sudden I see smoke, and as soon as I started touching the brake, it just boom. It literally just went boom. I heard it. I was like. And then, fire all over, smoke. So, I stopped almost, right behind him. And he was carrying so much momentum that he came over the hill and he had nowhere to park. And then all of a sudden he saw the opening. And when he tries to turn, the rear end locks up. So he just spun it. Yeah. Sí, no, se le loqueó justo ahí. So he, and then I parked right next to him, and I'll just see fire coming out from both ends of the car. So we rushed, and he pulled his, and I pulled mine, and
A few minutes later, the Studebaker team arrives.
when you guys get to the Bajas, but you got to get there. Yeah. I think I'll spend the night. I'm going to spend the night in Ensenada, and then.
Were you pretty set on that?
Huh?
Pretty set on that?
Yeah.
You don't want to leave the car here?
Nah.
Sour grave, right?
Too painful. Yeah. I want to drive my car. I'd rather go back and grab a motorcycle. If I had a motorcycle, I'd follow you down. But if I can't go fast, it's not even fun.
Well, the first thing, since the ambulance just went by, I'm glad we didn't need an ambulance today. So that's really a good thing. I mean, if you can glean anything that, feels positive about today, we didn't get hurt. But we were finally getting our sea legs in that car. And we took it up to about 135, 140. It was handling great on the turns. And we were settling in to the speed and the beauty of that car and the scenery. And all of a sudden, Chris just says, "Baby, hold on." And the car, I could feel it kind of locking up. He was, applying brakes, and we felt heat, but we didn't see any fire. But the guys behind us said that they saw smoke, and then they saw flames shooting out of each side of the car. The guys that were behind us, and luckily there was a turnout that we would have, if we didn't have a turnout, we would have been stopped in the middle of the road. We would have just, braked it to a stop, but instead we kind of slid off into the side, and then he said, get out of the car, and I see smoke, I see fire, I jump out, my helmet's attached, and so luckily Gustavo and Jim were behind us. They jumped out with their fire extinguisher. Our fire extinguisher didn't work. We opened the hood. There were flames, and our fire extinguisher didn't work. Theirs did, thank goodness. And then when the flames went out, we started picking up the pieces, and they were really hot. Gloves worked, which was also a good thing, positive thing.
The remaining cars make their way into Ensenada for a scheduled stop at a sponsor's location. This being Mexico, almost everywhere we stop, a model shows up.
So Mercado Refacciones has 17 stores along the route. This is number 17 behind me. This is Ensenada, our first stop. We keep going. We'll keep going until the next stop, which is San Quintin. We'll shoot it.
The space between stages is immense, and there's nothing out there. You really get to understand just how alone you are when you're driving across Baja. The heat is also causing problems for these classic cars, and the MGA team has to pull over to deal with an overheating issue. Problem solved, the MGA takes to the road again, hoping to catch up to the 914. Okay, so it's about 7 o'clock on day one of actual racing, and the cars are both getting worked on at a current stop here. So we're making our way across Baja, and hopefully we'll have a safe trip the rest of the way. We've already lost one car to mechanical failure. Breakdowns and repairs means we don't reach our checkpoint until almost 1 o'clock in the morning. The Porsche team's day starts with fuel issues, while the MGA team has decided it'll go no further since they do not have a chase vehicle to follow them deep into Mexico. This means the Porsche 914 is the only remaining vehicle on this inaugural run of the Rally Historico Transpeninsular.
We wind up using that, that little chicken shit pump. There's no way we can tell Mike.
A few miles down the road, the Porsche still is not running right.
Una llave de esas ajustables, como la que es, la que es que se abre y se cierra así. Una de esas.
No se corta, ¿no?
¿Cómo?
No se corta.
Sí,
Se vuelve a armar.
Y se vuelve a armar, sí.
The fuel pump has been giving them issues, but now they're also checking problems with the carburetors. Problem solved, we're back on the road. This stretch of Baja is by far the most barren. Hopefully the car will make it through this section because there's nowhere to stop, no auto parts stores, not even a gas station. At an abandoned gas station, we find some shade where the mechanics and team can work on the car. After some inspection, it's determined that there's water in the fuel, probably from the last gas station where we filled up. The only solution is to drain the tank and refill with gasoline. The only place to buy gasoline is from a man's truck parked on the side of the road near the abandoned gas station. After a quick road test, it appears that the car is running better and the water issue has been solved. However, it's still running on its auxiliary fuel pump. At a scheduled sponsor stop, Gustavo and the team decide to replace the end tank fuel pump, hoping this will resolve their lingering fuel issues. Once the pump is sourced, it requires disassembling much of the fuel system in the fuel cell and replacing the entire pump. The team works into the night to put the car back together and get us back on the
Make sure you
road.
don't drop it.
Approaching midnight, the team finally gets back on the road. But less than a mile later has to stop to make some other adjustments to the carburetors. Adjustments made, the team decides to push on instead of putting the car in the trailer, but would not make it to the hotel until nearly 4 in the morning. The new fuel pump and carburetor adjustments have the Porsche 914 running perfectly, and just in time too, as we're entering the mountains, some of the best speed sections of the rally, allowing Gustavo to really have fun and let the 914 do what it does best. Sunset comes quickly, and once again we find ourselves arriving at our checkpoint in the dead of night. This is our final stop, the last stage. We've arrived in Los Cabos. This isn't the film I planned on making. This wasn't the rally we planned to race in. We faced adversity, roadblocks, and challenges every step of the way. But in the end, the Rally Historico happened when many said it was impossible.